Can we just reinforce again the value of science here for our audience? Because I don't think people think about kind of the basement level principles very much. So we had kind of this enlightenment where we discovered sort of the effectiveness of the scientific method that was in the 1600s. And most listeners learn the scientific method in grade school, right? Which is you have a hypothesis, you test it, and see if you can kind of like know the hypothesis and repeat the experiment, that sort of thing. It's quite amazing that such a very simple primitive, and it does sound very simple at face value. It's just like a series of steps, right? With it kind of a measurable outcome at the end. It's sort of deceptively simple that such a protocol could like absolutely transform humanity. And indeed, that's kind of what it did, right? It brought us out of kind of the dark ages. When we think about technology, most listeners to this podcast will be probably tech accelerationists. I would guess they are definitely, if they're in crypto, right? They're technophiles. They love technology. You think about how does technology actually get created? Well, it's on the basis of this public good, of this recipe, of this protocol called science, the scientific method. And that's absolutely wild. And like, we can't have technology, we can't have accelerationism, we can't have the civilization, all the good stuff that we want without science. That's the kind of the bottom layer of all of these things. And the process from turning science into like technology is something interesting to talk about. But I just want to reinforce the value proposition here. Like, look around you, like this conversation, everything you see and appreciate about like humanity and all of the fantastic things that we've done in human civilization are because science. It's like that's the one thing that is propelling us forward, and it's kind of a simple truth. I'm sure you guys are both nodding your heads, and especially you, Patrick. Like, is that why you're here? Is there kind of like some mission orientation with like a true scientist as a truth seeker trying to propel humanity forward? Is that why scientists do what they do?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's about like reducing suffering in the world in general. So kind of what I mentioned before when I was into psychiatry and mental health, like there are a lot of issues in the world that a lot of people struggle with on a daily basis. And having like a repeatable process through which we can understand what reality is allows us to like manipulate our environment to our own advantage. Create, drugs and like small molecules that can actually like change how you feel and like make better your perception of life. And so I think that like all technology is based on scientific underpinnings, which are based on the process of observing what is true, asking questions about it, and then creating experiments to test hypotheses that underlie the theories of how the world works.
Yeah, and if I can just add to that, I mean, if you look at all the countries of the world, and they're all kind of trying to think about, how do we grow our economy? How do we have more budget? How do we improve healthcare and like all these things? So Matt Ridley and kind of others have written about this, but if you sort of trace it back to the root cause, right? And it's like, okay, well, how do countries grow their economy so that they have more resources to do more things? I mean, well, you have to have some sort of product that is unique that your country produces that has some unique advantage. Like it's like hard for people to get it from other countries, right? It's distinct. And so how do you get products that have some advantage, right? Whether it's like the best car or the best rocket or the open AI or whatever. Like, well, it usually comes from some technological breakthrough, right? Okay, so how do you get a technological breakthrough in your product? Even going back to like the Dutch Empire, like they had the best ships, the caravels, or all these you can kind of go back and back. Well, the way you get the best technological breakthrough is you need to have some sort of scientific breakthrough, right? How do you get scientific breakthroughs? Well, you could probably trace that back to having great education or having a great immigration program, like to attract the best and brightest people all over the world. And so, essentially, like good education produces good science produces technological breakthroughs. Those get commercialized into products which produce the prosperity of entire empires. And, sometimes when people think, I think Patrick, I don't want to speak for Patrick, but, I think we're both techno-optimists in that sense. And, I think it's important in a country that you celebrate science and celebrate technological breakthroughs, because I think sometimes technology gets a bad name. There's like this techlash thing, right? People think of, technology is like Instagram. Aren't people like addicted to that and it's kind of frivolous? And it's like, no, technology is much more than that. Like technology is the shoes on your feet, right? Technology is like fire, humans inventing fire. which led to the internal combustion engine and cars and like, eyeglasses or contact lenses on our face. And, if without technology, we would literally just be like freezing and starving in the wilderness, like as primitive beings, right? And so, once technology has been around a little while, people they don't think of eyeglasses and cars as technology. They think of like OpenAI and Instagram, but like they're all part of one chain of discoveries being built upon another. And I think it's worth celebrating that. Like Yuri Milner and a bunch of people, they put on this breakthrough prize, and they try to actually make scientists like celebrities, because they've had this observation that if you look at like the top followed accounts on Twitter and Instagram and stuff, or X, like something like 95% of them are musicians and athletes, right? And so that kind of is like it's sort of an example of what our society celebrates. And if you ask like young people, what do you want to be, right? A lot of them say like, I want to be a social media influencer or something. And so, I think it's fine to have some percentage of society be allocated to entertainment, like music and sports, and like entertainment is great, but maybe it should be like 20% or 30% of our societal, heroes, and like some percent more than like 1% should be the scientists that are achieving these breakthroughs. And so anyway, we want to have like leaderboards. It's like there's a lot we want to do on Research Hub. It's still very early days, but we want to recognize the people who had the best breakthrough in computer science or physics this month or this year, and like actually give out the Research Hub prize, kind of like the Nobel Prize or something like that, kind of all community oriented and crowdsourced and voted on. Anyway, there are lots of stuff there, but yeah, science is important. We're really passionate about it.
I want to add one last. If you enjoyed all of that, then you'll absolutely love the Bankless newsletter. Join over 300,000 fellow readers, all for free. Click below to sign up.